Yes. Good. All right, my friends. Parshas Vayishlach. Like I said before, this week's Torah portion is talking about the meeting between Yaakov and Esav. This, of course, is in order to bring Mashiach. Yaakov even says to Esav, I don't want to walk with you now. Esav said, let's walk together. He said, no, we'll meet together when I bo Moshim Bahar Tzion Ishporis Esav. We'll meet together when Mashiach comes. So this meeting is in order to bring Mashiach. And this is the generation of Mashiach. Here it is. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, he's the Mashiach. And it's supposed to be fixed up. It depends somehow or other on us. And that's what we're reading about. What are we supposed to do? What type of attitude are we supposed to take? What type of deeds? What are we supposed to talk about, think about? So there's the story about the Baal Shem Tov. The story of the Baal Shem Tov is that he had an experience. I'll sing the song of the Middle Rebbe soon, God willing, at the end of the class. The Baal Shem Tov, on one Rosh Hashanah, so he had this experience where he went, this out-of-body experience where he went to the chamber of Mashiach. And he said to the Mashiach, when are you going to come? And the Mashiach said, I'm going to come when your deep teachings are spread out, your mayanot, mayanotecha chutza, when your deep teachings are spread out. The teachings of Hasidut are spread out to the whole world. That's the purpose of these classes that I'm giving now, that we're learning. So it says, by means of the leader of Chabad, they're spreading out these teachings of Hasidut and Kitzvei Table to all the ends of the earth. Kavar Nigmaru, so therefore everything has already been finished. Everything as far as the world goes. As has been already announced many times, and the previous Rebbe said that Tzachtzachok Kaftorim, they're ready for the parade, for the Mashiach. Everybody's dressed in their uniforms. Even the buttons are already shined up. Everything is prepared for the arrival of Mashiach. And again, just to make everything clear, Mashiach is going to be a Jew that's going to know the whole Torah, teach the whole Torah, encourage all the Jews to do what it says in the Torah, to do all the commandments. They'll fight against any of these powers that I mentioned before that try to destroy Judaism, right? Secularism, idolatry, ignorance. And eventually he'll bring all of the Jews to do Torah commandments. Then the Holy Temple is going to fall from heaven. All the Jews are going to come to the land of Israel. And then the world, big changes occurred until finally there'll be the raising of the dead. Hard to believe, but that's the purpose of this thing, that we will start to believe this, because that's the truth. From this, it's understood. So the Rebbe said it's all been finished. Therefore, everything that we're doing now, all the time that the Mashiach, for some unexplainable reason, that this redemption is delaying. So what we're doing now is not to refine the world like we just finished learning in the Mimer, refining the world, but now is just, we have to reveal, bring to revelation actual in the world. It's something like, the way I explain it is, let's say, Uncle Joe gets in a terrible car accident, and the whole family is there. He's in intensive care, and he's in an operating room, and the doctor comes out from the operating room, and he says, we've done an operation, a long operation, but it was successful. He's gonna live. Really? Yes. Can we see him? He says, yes. Here, look, but you can't go into the room. Look through this window. You see, it's Uncle Joe. What did I say? It's Uncle Joe. He looks terrible. He's got all these tubes there. He's unconscious. He's being respirated artificially. There's all these monitors beeping all around. He's got all these tubes inside of him. He looks terrible. Uncle Joe, help. He's unconscious. The doctor says, listen, don't yell and don't scream. I'm telling you he's okay. I'm telling you he's okay. I know what I'm talking about. When is he going to come? When is he going to come back to consciousness? Okay, you have to do this. You have to do the. But the main thing, he's there and everything is all right. I'm telling you, he's 100% all right. I know my business. I know what I'm talking about. Same thing the Jewish people. the Jewish people, the Rebbe is telling us that Jewish people are okay. Mashiach is already here. The Gula is not here. Everything seems to be unconscious. What's going on? There's no redemption. The Rebbe says, listen, trust me. I know what I'm talking about. But nevertheless, we still have to change our attitude toward the world. One of the things of this Shabbat, next Shabbat we're talking about, and the preparation on Friday is that there's a known principle that on Friday, right before Shabbat, that you're supposed to taste the food of Shabbat. Like the rabbis say, Misha Torach Be'erev Shabbat, a person that works right before Shabbat, cooks, prepares the food, and he's got what to eat on Shabbat. This Shabbat is Tet Vav B'Kislev. I think this Shabbat is not Tet Vav B'Kislev, but rather there it is. One second, let me have a look over here. Tet Zayin. This Shabbat is Tet Zayin Kislev. One day later. It's not the 15th of Kislev. This Shabbos will be the 16th. This the Rebbe is talking about 30 years ago. Tavshin Nun Beit. Tavshin Nun Beit. The Rebbe is talking about Nun Beit. Right, 30 years ago. This is the Tet Vav. Okay, this Shabbos will be the day after, when the moon is full. When the moon is full, the completion of the moon. And it will finish Motzi Shabbos, that then it's drawn to the third day of the week, which is Yotes Kislev. This year, it's the fourth day of the week. The fourth day of the week, of the coming week, not this present week, but after this next Shabbos, the fourth day of the week here, it's back then, 30 years ago, was the third day, is Yutet Kislev. Yutet Kislev is the holiday of freedom of the first Rebbe of Chabad. It's called the holiday of holidays, the Rosh Hashanah of Torah Chassidut. Okay, if what I'm saying is true, that the whole purpose of the world is just for Mashiach, and the only way to bring Mashiach is by spreading out the teachings of Chassidut, and the only ones that are really spreading out the teachings of Chassidut in a way that's really understood, in other words, that it spreads out to all parts of your day and your personality, is Chabad. So the leader of Chabad, it ends up this one man, this leader of Chabad, the first Rebbe of Chabad, he is the one that's saving the whole world. He is the one that really began spreading out these teachings of Chassidut. When he was put into prison, the reason was to stop these teachings. That was the whole design of his enemies, to stop these teachings to be spread out. And when he got out, that was a sign from heaven, because there was no chance that he could get out. The odds were against him 1,000,000 to 1. There was no, and miraculously he did get out of prison. He spent 53 days in prison. The first Rebbe of Chabad, Rav Shner Zalman, the one who wrote the Tanya, when he got out, that was a sign that these teachings of Chassidut were free. They were now open to be spread out in the whole world. Chag HaChagim, Rosh Hashanah, what's called the Rosh Hashanah, the New Year's of the birth of Torah Chassidut, of the teachings of Chassidut. Malam Yocheret B'Kaviyat Zu. The fact of the matter is that this comes out Yutet Kislev, the first time that it happened, which was in Tov Kuf Nun Tet. It was in 1799. That's when the Alter Rebbe got out of prison. 1799, is that right? Yes. Yes. Like the Alter Rebbe said in his letter, which is known, that this redemption was on Yutet Kislev Tuesday. This year it's going to be on Wednesday. And that he finished in Sefer Tehillim, Pada B'Shalom Nafshi, the song which is called Pada B'Shalom Nafshi. The Rebbe used to say the Tehillim of the day of the week. This book of Tehillim of Psalms there's 150 Psalms, and it's divided up in 3 ways. It's divided up into 5 sections. That's according to the 5 books of the Torah. And then these 150 are divided up into 7 sections according to the days of the week. And they're divided up into 30 sections, into 30 which that's the days of the month. So the Alter Rebbe, the first Rebbe, used to read one for each day of the week, the day of the week, which means comes out that he would read like, I don't know, what is it? 20 something of Psalms every day. So automatically, Shabbat Kodesh, came out on the 5th day of Kislev. Is that right? One second, what did I just say? If it's 7. Yeah, that's right. Something like that. The Erev Shabbat, the Tetvav Kislev. Right. So he's saying, what is it? That because the holiday of Behektim, there's a question and a wonder about this whole idea of Yutet Kislev, the holiday of holidays, and that it's different from all the other holidays. Pesach and Sukkot, they're set on the 15th day of the month. Pesach is the 15th of Nisan, and Sukkot is the 15th of Tishrei. All the holidays usually come in the beginning, the first half of the month. Sukkot, the holiday of Sukkot, and the holiday of Passover, right? The Jews would go up to the Holy Temple 3 times a year, on the holiday of Passover, on the holiday of Sukkot, and the holiday of Shavuot. Sukkot and Shavuot, Sukkot and Pesach, they're in the middle of the month. The holiday of Shavuot, that's the holiday when we got the Torah, this is Shekatuv lo Tola Chag Hazeh, lo Tola, I'm sorry, Shekatuv lo Tola Chag Hazeh B'kama Yamim Chodesh. It doesn't say in the Torah which day of the month we do the holiday of Shavuot, only the 50th day of the Omer. But it always comes out in the beginning of the month. It always comes out on the 6th day of the month. Sometimes it can be, according in the time when there was the Holy Temple, sometimes the holiday could come out on the 5th day of the month, sometimes in the 6th, sometimes in the 7th. But this, nevertheless, it's always in the first half of the month. Keshalavana, when the moon, the Jewish people are compared to the moon, is increasing, which is not the case the holiday of Yutet Kislev and also Chanukah. Yutet Kislev and also the holiday of Chanukah, we'll get to that. Those are 2 holidays that are in the end of the month. Not only is it not in the middle of the month, when the moon is full and the Jewish people are compared to the moon, but even more, it's in the second half of the month, when the moon is getting less and less. Now, everything in Judaism has a lesson. And there's some people that don't get married in the second half of the month. It's a custom. I don't know, not everybody in Chabad, there's some people that don't pay attention to it, but nevertheless, there is such a custom like that. Because the second half of the month, when the moon is getting smaller, they say it's not a good sign. The moon getting fuller, that's the full moon, that's like the Jewish people. The moon illuminates the night. That's what the Jewish people are supposed to do. And even if you want to say in the beginning of the month, like Rosh Hashanah or Shavuot, this is when the moon is getting bigger and bigger. It's a positive thing. All the same thing as the holiday of Chanukah. Chanukah is, most of the days of Chanukah are the last days of the month, from the 25th day of Kislev and on, when the moon is getting less and less until it gets totally concealed. So that's not sort of a good sign for a holiday, huh? Says the Rebbe, it is. Listen to this. Yesh Lubavitcher, we can explain, first of all, what's the whole idea of the moon getting less in the second half of the month in regard to the Jewish people that they count according to the moon. Since that the first half of the month, Mosif Holech, it's adding on light of the moon from day to day. Ubechetza Asheni, in the second half of the month, it gets less and less light from the day to day. Hayat Tzarich Liot, the Chora, it should be that counting the moon they're counting to the moon in a way that the first half of the month should be adding Yom Aleph, Yom Beis, etc., until the 15th. And the second half of the month, it should be getting less and less. The second half of the month should be the 15th, and then the 14th, and then so you could have like the months, instead of being the first day, second day, third day of the month, it could be the first day until we get to the 15th, and then it would be 14B, right? It would be 14B, 13B, 12B. In other words, the days will get less and less. If the whole thing of counting according to the moon is a Jewish thing, so we can decide how we want to count. And if the second half of the month getting less and less is not a good sign, so the numbers also should go down. Why do we add on numbers? That seems to imply that something is increasing, and we're saying it's not increasing. Really, it's getting less and less. The moon is getting less. But the fact of the matter is that no, not only the number of days in the second half of the month, they don't get less, but exactly the opposite. Really, the days of the second half of the month increase. Right? The middle of the month is the 15th, and then after that it comes 16th, the 17th of the month. The number of days increases and increases. The day after the 15th is the 16th, one more than the 15th. So if so, this indicates that something in the month after the middle, even though the moon is getting less, but there's something that's increasing because the dates are increasing. And the day after the 16th is the 17th, etc. Until finally the last day of the month comes out to be the 29th or the 30th. So it gets up to the highest number you can. This is much higher. And even more. Not only is there an addition in the number of days of the month, but also, this is stressed also in the gematria, in the numerical value of the letters. The number Yud Zayin is 17. This is the gematria of Tov, of good. The day after it, Yud Ches, is Chai, life. The number Yud Tet, this is the gematria of Bitov, in good. The number of Chaf 20 is Yud Vav Daled. It's the letter Yud, the first letter of God's name, filled up, 20. The number 21 is Ach, Tov V'Chesed, only good to the Jews. The number 22 is B'cha Yivorech Hashem, in you, the Jewish people are blessed. You, God. The number 23 is the gematria of Tovo, right? Like Ma Tovo, Olech Yaakov, Tovo. Mispar Kaf Dalet, 24, Vasamti Kad Kod, Shim Shoshayach. It says that it's like the vessel of good. Mispar Kaf Dal Hey, this is Kot Baruch Ben Israel. This is the introduction to the blessings of the Kohanim. Ko, 25. 26, this is God's name. 27, this is Zach, pure. Kaf Ches, this is the number of Koach, power. And Kaf Tes, this is the days of the month. 30 full days. If so, we see that every day that the moon is getting less and less, but the numbers are going higher and higher, and there's more good increased. How could this be? I thought the moon was a sign of light and goodness of Jewish people. Says the Rebbe, the reason for this is Kevan sheyesh no tzibui b'hora, because there's a commandment, and that is milim b'kodesh. We always have to increase in holiness. This is a very important lesson, I think, for everybody, because usually in life, when things don't go good for us, because when we read about it happening to somebody else, as we can give all sorts of advice and we're objective, and we can say, don't fall down and be happy and all this. But when, God forbid, something bad happens to us, right? Me personally, someone personal, then all of a sudden it's not so easy to be objective anymore. Then you get depressed, you get angry, you can't think straight, right? You can't get. But it says, therefore, that's represented by the second half of the month when the moon gets less and less light. It says, but nevertheless, you should know that there's something increasing there also. There's a command that says, Mailim B'Kodesh. We always have to increase in holy things. And you don't go down. That's the whole thing of the lights of Hanukkah. Why, according to Beit Shammai, we light on the first night of Hanukkah, we light 8, and then we go down. It says because that's like the oxes of the holiday that we sacrifice on the holiday of Sukkot. According to Beit Hillel, though, and that's what we do, we start on the first night, we light 1, and then we increase. Why? Because you never descend in holy things. And the reason that the oxes descend is a special law in the Torah. This is relevant to every day of the month, even the second half of the month. After the moon is already full and it's getting less and less, we have to become more and more. When you see more and more darkness, it means you have to increase more and more light. According to this, we have to understand now, what's this idea of the moon gets less in the second half of the month than after it's already full. And then afterwards, it gets less and less. This is exactly the opposite of the principle we just said, that you have to increase in holiness. It should be that the moon got more and more and more and more to the end of the month, and then all of a sudden it went black, and then it started again, right? You increase because it started a new cycle, but that's not the way it goes. The moon, the cycle of the moon is that it gets bright, and it finishes the cycle by gradually getting less and less and less and less and less. So it ends up that the higher numbers that represent a higher level of holiness, there's less and less light. How can this possibly be? Isn't that going against the whole principle we said that you have to increase in holiness? Well, this we're going to talk about, God willing, tomorrow, and God willing, tomorrow I'll be on time. Let us now learn the Dvar Malchut. I mean the Yom Yom, Hayom Yom. On this day, in 1826, the second Rebbe of Chabad was released from imprisonment in the city of Vitebsk. About a month before, in the holiday of Chol Hamoed Sukkot, a month and a half, it became known that the Middler Rebbe had been slandered. It's a very embarrassing, shameful story, but members of his family, they were jealous, and there was an argument in the family about money, whatever. And there were some of them that were very rich, and they were in very important positions with the government. And they forged papers saying that the Rebbe was trying to make a rebellion, a revolution. And he was going to declare himself to be the king of the Jews, that he built his synagogue was in the form of the Holy Temple. Anyway, eventually they investigated and they found that the whole thing was just trumped up and it was all false. On Sunday of Parshas Noah, he left Lubavitcher, and he was accompanied by this whole sort of a entourage. He was imprisoned in much better conditions than the first Rebbe, but the charges were much more severe. And he said a Maimer Mayim Rabim. On Monday he left there, went to Liazne, where he said the Maimer Reshfel Reshveis. On Tuesday he went to Vitebsk, and then he was imprisoned until Sunday of Vayishlach Tet Kislev. And he got out on Tet Kislev, and the next year he was supposed to celebrate the anniversary of his getting out, but he died the day before. And why did he die? Because he heard that the Russian government was making decrees to start taking, it was just beginning this Kantonist program where they were taking young children, Jewish children, into the Russian army. And he went to pray at his father's grave that for help to rescind this decree. His father's grave is in Hadich. And on the way back, he got sick and he died. He's buried in Nyazhin. There's now hundreds of Hasidim in the city of Nyazhin in Ukraine. So that's where he's buried. He's buried there, and he's the second Rebbe of Chabad. The Rebbe has a sikha saying that he's the middle Rebbe. The middle means a means to something else. Middle means like an emtsa'i. Emtsa'i means that a person is just like a means to get something done. He's not an important in himself any more than he's just a means to accomplish something more important than himself. So it says every Jew is also just a means, a emtsa'i, a mittel. He's just a means to bring the Moshiach. So that's our whole purpose. That's what the second Rebbe of Chabad stressed. As we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Today we will learn at 3:00 in the afternoon the portion of the week with the commentaries, the holy commentaries. Be with us, please. Have a good day with Mashiach now.